The Quran is flawless, the soul is not. That's a truth many hear, but only a few understand deeply. See, we live in a world that's constantly changing, constantly updating. Apps update, systems upgrade. People tweak, twist, and tailor everything to suit their moods, their trends, their politics. But the Quran, it's untouched. It's preserved, and not because no one ever wanted to change it, but because it was never meant to be changed. Because when something is revealed in perfection, it doesn't need revision, it needs reflection. Meanwhile, the human soul, that's a different story. We walk around with baggage, doubts, regrets, pride, anger, pain. Some of it we picked up ourselves, and some was handed down to us. But either way, we carry it, and as we carry it, we change, sometimes for the better, sometimes not. The soul isn't flawless. It's fragile. It's shaped by what we do, what we allow, and what we chase. It bends under pressure. It strays under temptation, and it suffers when it forgets why it was created in the first place. Now here's the powerful part. The Quran didn't come down to be a decoration. It didn't come to sit on a shelf or be recited without thought. It came to guide that imperfect soul back to what's real, back to what's pure, back to what's eternal. It's not just scripture, it's surgery. It cuts deep. It reveals things about you that you didn't want to see, and that's the point. Because you can't change what you won't confront. You ever read a verse and feel like it was talking directly to you? Like it knew your exact moment, your exact mistake, your exact struggle? That's not coincidence. That's design. That's divine mercy. The Quran doesn't change because it's meant to change you. It's not the kind of book that waits for you to edit it. It's the kind that edits your priorities, your intentions, your very sense of self. The soul, it needs work, constant work, and that's okay. That's the beauty of being human. You're not expected to be perfect, but you are expected to strive, to grow, to admit when you're wrong, to keep coming back to the truth no matter how many times you drift. That's where the Quran comes in, not as a judgment, but as a compass. A constant, unchanging compass in a world that tries to convince you north is wherever you're comfortable. Perfection doesn't need permission, it just is. And when something is flawless like the Quran, your job isn't to question it. It's to let it question you. And when you do that, when you really let it in, you begin to notice things. The way you speak, the way you think, the way you react when no one's watching. Slowly, your soul starts to align with something greater. Not because you're forced, but because you're finally free. Free from the noise. Free from the masks, free from the lies this world tries to sell. So while the world edits itself to fit in, the believer is editing themselves to stand out in truth, in character, and in purpose. Because the Quran doesn't change. But if you let it, it will change everything about you. And that's the difference between divine perfection and human potential. One doesn't need editing, the other never stops needing it. Truth doesn't evolve, people do. In a world where everything is constantly shifting, where opinions are treated like facts and facts are twisted to fit feelings, there's one thing that doesn't bend: truth, real truth, the kind that comes from beyond human influence. It doesn't need to be modernized, it doesn't need to be dressed up for a new generation, it just is. The Quran stands as that truth, timeless, untouched, unchanged, not because it's out of reach, but because it has always been exactly where we need it to be, rooted in clarity, in justice, in mercy. People evolve. That's the nature of being human. We grow, we learn, we stumble. We go through phases, our minds change, our hearts shift, our environments shape us. What we thought we knew at 15 might look foolish at 30. What hurt us in the past might heal us later. That's all part of the journey, but truth doesn't follow that journey, it leads it. It remains the light on the path, even when we take turns away from it. It waits for us to catch up. It doesn't chase us down with noise, it stands in silence, certain of its own power. That's why the Quran hasn't been edited, updated, or reimagined. Like everything else in this world, it doesn't need to adapt to culture. Culture needs to reflect on it. When people try to say, well, times have changed, the Quran answers yes, but human nature hasn't. Jealousy still poisons hearts. Greed still destroys lives. Arrogance still blinds people. Lust still traps souls. These aren't new problems. They're ancient, and the solutions, they've been in the same verses for over 1,400 years. You see, when people change, they often want truth to change with them, to excuse their actions, to justify their choices, to keep them comfortable. But that's not how truth works. It's not a mirror that reflects what we want to see. It's a light that shows what we need to see. And sometimes that light exposes things we'd rather keep in the dark. That's where the discomfort comes in. That's where the resistance begins. But that's also where transformation starts. People evolve when they choose to confront truth instead of run from it. When they stop asking, why does this verse say this? And start asking, why am I not living this? That shift in mindset is everything. Because the Quran isn't there to evolve with your desires. It's there to evolve you beyond your desires, to lift you from being a slave to your impulses and raise you into someone who walks with purpose. It's easy to confuse progress with wisdom, to believe that moving forward means moving away from old principles. But forward isn't always right. Growth isn't always truth. The world tells you to follow your heart. The Quran tells you to purify it first. The world tells you to express your truth. The Quran reminds you, there's only one, and it hasn't changed because it never needed to. So yes, people evolve, that's part of our design. We're meant to change, to rise, to return. But if we think evolving means leaving behind divine guidance, then we're not growing. We're just drifting, because evolution without direction is chaos. But evolution guided by truth, that's transformation. That's how the soul rises, and the truth, it's still right where it's always been, waiting for you to grow into it, not out of it. You don't edit divine words, you let them edit you. That's the kind of line that sounds simple until it hits your soul. In a time where everyone feels entitled to have a say, to voice an opinion, to challenge anything that doesn't align with their world, there's something humbling, almost terrifying, about being faced with words you can't change. Words that don't flinch when challenged. Words that don't shift under pressure. Words that don't care if they make you uncomfortable. Because they were never meant to please your ego. They were meant to confront it. The Quran is not a suggestion. It's not a quote you toss up on your story when it suits your mood. It's revelation. Timeless, anchored, divine. When you open it, you're not stepping into something that needs your edits. You're stepping into something that reveals your flaws, that cuts through your distractions, that tells you, with no filter, exactly what you are and what you're becoming. See, editing is a human instinct. When we don't like how something sounds, we adjust it. When something makes us uncomfortable, we water it down. That's how we deal with everything, from our social media posts to our relationships. But that doesn't work with revelation. The Quran isn't asking for your approval. It's not applying for a position in your life. It's already been appointed by the one who knows your soul better than you do. So when it speaks, it doesn't stutter. It commands, and if that truth feels sharp, good, that means it's working. The verses are designed to go deep, to disturb the comfort zones we've built with excuses, because real change doesn't happen in comfort. It happens in confrontation, when a verse stops you mid-recitation and you realize, this one's for me. That's not a coincidence. That's not just good timing. That's your soul being seen, and that verse. It's not asking you to argue with it. It's asking you to reflect, to repent, to return. But here's the issue: we're living in an age that worships self-expression more than self-correction. Everyone wants their voice heard. Few want their heart purified. So when the Quran says something we don't like, our instinct is to reframe it, reinterpret it, soften it, or worse, ignore it. But that's not engagement, that's resistance. And the only thing that gets edited in that process is our own connection to truth. The beauty is, the Quran doesn't flinch, it waits, it knows you'll come back when life breaks through your pride, when the weight of your choices gets too heavy. When the world fails to give you peace, that's when the editing begins, but not on the page, inside you, in how you walk, how you speak, how you forgive, how you worship. Because letting the Quran edit you means letting it rearrange your priorities. It means submitting your opinions, your plans, your pain to something greater. That's where healing begins. That's where elevation starts. So no, you don't edit divine words. You don't polish up perfection. You don't reshape revelation. You let it reshape you. You sit with it even when it's uncomfortable. You accept it even when it cuts deep. You trust it even when you don't fully understand, because the one who sent it doesn't make mistakes. But we do, often, and if you let it in, really let it in, it won't just change your mind. It'll change your heart, your habits, your direction, your purpose. That's not weakness. That's transformation. Because the moment you stop trying to edit the message and start letting the message edit you, that's when you finally become the person you were always meant to be. Arrogance resists correction. Humility invites it. That's a truth most people don't want to face, because pride is loud and humility whispers. Pride builds walls. It puts on armor. It talks first and listens last. But humility opens the door and sits down at the table with truth, even when it stings. Arrogance says, I already know. Humility says, teach me. And the difference between those two is the difference between growth and stagnation, between peace and inner chaos. When the Quran speaks, the heart responds, but only if it's willing. Only if it's soft enough to be shaped, and the heart wrapped in arrogance. It doesn't hear the Quran, it argues with it. It questions the verses not to understand, but to discredit. It reads the guidance and asks, but what if I disagree? As if divine wisdom needs human approval. That's not a soul looking for direction. That's a soul defending its ego. The most dangerous thing about arrogance is that it convinces you you're right, even when you're completely off track. It puts you in a position where you feel above correction, above advice, above reminders. And that's when you become blind, not physically, spiritually. You see the words, but they don't move you. You hear the truth, but it doesn't land, because the gate is closed, locked, secured by pride. And pride doesn't let anything in that threatens its image, but the humble, they're different. They don't see correction as an attack. They see it as a gift. They know they're flawed. They know they make mistakes. So when the Quran hits a nerve, they don't turn the page. They pause. They reflect. They ask, what do I need to change? And that one question, that small act of sincerity, it opens the door to transformation. Humility is power under control. It doesn't mean weakness. It doesn't mean silence. It means you recognize you're a servant, not a master, a student, not the author. And when you approach the Quran with that posture, you'll find it begins to work on you. It will soften the rough edges. It will clean out the arrogance hiding in your decisions. It will humble you, not to humiliate you, but to elevate you, because God doesn't guide the arrogant, He guides the sincere. And don't think arrogance only belongs to the loud, the boastful, the obviously proud. Sometimes it hides in the quiet, in the I don't need help, in the I've got this on my own, in the refusal to ask for forgiveness, in the fear of looking wrong. Arrogance doesn't always scream. Sometimes it just silently refuses to bow. That's why humility is so powerful. It breaks the cycle. It brings you to your knees in front of something greater than you. It silences the noise of your ego so you can finally hear the warnings, hear the hope, hear the invitation to return, no matter how far you've gone. And in that space of surrender, something amazing happens. You grow, you evolve, you change, not because someone forced you, but because you finally let the truth in. So when the Quran corrects you, when it challenges your mindset, your habits, your pride, don't resist. Don't argue, don't run, listen, reflect, and let it in. Because the one who lets pride lead will always stay lost. but the one who walks with humility will always find their way home. The Quran speaks to the part of you that the world can't see. The part that doesn't show up in photos, doesn't shine on a resume, doesn't echo in applause. That hidden space deep inside, the one where your fears live, where your hopes whisper, where your regrets settle when no one's looking. That's the soul, and while the world is busy judging what's visible, the Quran speaks directly to what's invisible. It doesn't need filters or credentials. It bypasses the surface and reaches straight for the heart. That's what makes it different from anything else. Because this world, it trains you to perform, to impress, to look like you've got it all figured out. But when the lights are off and the noise fades, and you're left with nothing but your own reflection, you start to feel the weight of everything you've been carrying. That's when the Quran speaks loudest. Not through volume, but through precision. It finds the cracks in your armor and offers light to pour in. It speaks to your sorrow like it knows it personally. It addresses your sins without shame, but with sincerity, inviting you not to be perfect, but to return. The Quran doesn't care about your reputation, it cares about your redemption. It's not concerned with the version of you the world praises. It's concerned with the version of you that cries at night and wonders if you're still loved. And it answers, yes, yes, you are. Yes, there's hope. Yes, the door is still open. You see, people will see your actions and make assumptions. They'll look at your past and think they've figured you out. But the Quran looks at your soul and tells you what you need to hear, not what flatters you, what heals you. It'll call out your hypocrisy, your jealousy, your selfishness, not to shame you, but to show you that you're capable of more, that you weren't created to settle for spiritual numbness, that you can rise. Sometimes you'll read a verse and feel like it's describing your exact situation, like it was written just for you. That's not an accident. That's divine alignment. That's the mercy of being seen by the Creator when the creation overlooks you. Because the Quran is personal, deeply personal, it's not just a guide for humanity, it's a guide for you. Your battles, your questions, your silence, your journey. And while people will only see what you let them see, the Quran will reach places you didn't even know needed healing. It will confront the lies you tell yourself and the excuses you hide behind. It will challenge the comfort zones that are killing your growth, and when you let it in, it won't leave you the same. The most powerful moments aren't the ones where you read it out loud for others to hear. They're the quiet moments alone, when a verse pulls you to tears and you realize, this is more than a book. This is a lifeline. This is a mirror. This is a message from the one who knows every secret, every scar, every whispered prayer. So don't wait for the world to understand you. Let the Quran remind you that you've already been understood, that you're not invisible to the one who made you, that your soul was never forgotten. Because while the world sees your image, the Quran sees your essence, and speaks to it like it's the only thing that ever mattered. Don't revise the revelation, revise yourself. That's the call, and it's not easy. Because revision means change, it means admitting you've been off track. It means putting your ego on pause and letting truth take the lead. But in a world where people are more concerned with bending the truth to fit their lifestyle than bending their lifestyle to fit the truth, that's a rare kind of strength. The kind that starts not with pride, but with surrender. The Quran was never meant to be altered to fit personal agendas or cultural trends. It came perfect, final, sealed. It's not a manuscript in progress. It's not a draft open to peer review. It's the word of the one who sees beyond time, beyond emotion, beyond opinion. And when you approach it with reverence, not resistance, you realize it's not the revelation that needs adjusting, it's you. People today want to make faith convenient. They want comfort without confrontation. So instead of asking, how can I change to align with this verse? They ask, can we reinterpret this verse to fit how I live? That's not growth. That's avoidance. That's not reflection. That's rebellion in disguise. Because the Quran doesn't exist to echo your desires, it exists to elevate you beyond them. If you find something in the Quran that challenges you, that makes you uncomfortable, that forces you to question your choices, that's not the time to edit the verse. That's the moment to check your heart, to sit with that discomfort and ask why it's there. Because truth doesn't bend to emotions, it refines them. It doesn't dance around your weakness. It exposes it so you can overcome it. Revising yourself isn't about being perfect. It's about being honest, about recognizing where you fall short and deciding not to stay there. It's waking up to your own contradictions and doing the work to remove them. The Quran doesn't expect perfection, but it demands sincerity. It demands effort. It asks you to show up flawed, broken, lost if you have to, but ready to listen, ready to change. That's what separates those who use the Quran as a mirror from those who treat it like a menu. The mirror shows you who you are and what you need to work on. The menu lets you pick and choose what you like, leaving the rest behind. But the Quran isn't a buffet. It's not optional truth. It's complete and it's cohesive. You don't get to rewrite it based on what feels right. You let it rewrite you so that you can be right. This path, this faith, this book, it's not meant to revolve around you. You're meant to revolve around it. Like the planets around the sun, like the heart around its Lord, you orbit the truth because without it, you drift. And that's what happens when people revise the revelation. They lose their center. They lose the stability that only submission can bring. You want peace, real peace. It comes when you stop arguing with what was never up for debate. It comes when you stop twisting verses and start twisting your lifestyle into shape. It comes when you admit that maybe, just maybe, the problem isn't the guidance. It's the way you've been ignoring it. So no, the revelation doesn't need to be revised. It doesn't need to be softened or reshaped. It's already perfect, already timeless, already enough, but you're a work in progress. And that progress starts the moment you stop trying to change the words and start letting the words change you.